we think that memories are permanent, but they're more like a Word document. Every time you open the document and change it and save it again, it's an updated version. So we can now change the association, the feeling that you had with that moment. We can change it right now.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to the Life and Air Show. I'm your host, Jason Wojo. On the Life and Air Show, we help people make more, work less, and live awesome lives. I am joined by my co-host, Polish Peter. Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, man. So I'm looking forward to this episode because I think something cool is going to happen on this episode, which, one of the things that I'm going to just draw right. All right. I just messed this up. Anyway, we're going to jump right into this. Because one of the things that we talk about in this episode, we talk about emotions. We talk about, calling out your emotions and talk about your past experiences, the story, the meaning that we address. Because the lady on this episode, she is a life coach and she has done some amazing work with people to help them recreate their story so they can, rock out in life. She started working at 60 hours a week when she was first business, and she transformed herself to be able to work in her new business about 6 hours a week. So What had her be able to do that? And a lot of it has to do with those emotions. It has to do with the meaning and the story that we tell ourselves.
Yep. We also do a little one-on-one coaching on this call, on this podcast episode. So you'll get to experience that. It's cool. It's pretty powerful. It's pretty cool. And Peter's just loving every minute of this as well.
Oh, yes. Hopefully, listen, entire Life on Air community, I think is going to be rejoicing at this because hopefully we finally fix Wojo, okay?
Right. So here is our interview right now with Risa Haasbroek. Risa, welcome to the Life and Air Show. Thank you so much for joining us.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
This is gonna be awesome. I can't wait. So Risa, you have an awesome story. You are a mindset coach for business owners. You hail from South Africa, which is pretty amazing. Like I want to hear all about that too. That sounds fantastic. But tell people like a little bit about yourself and how you got into this role, because like that's a pretty lofty. It's a pretty cool, I guess you could say, like a career, a path in life to choose. And so like, what got you interested in that? How did you end up being this?
Okay, so we came to the US in 2015 and my husband got a job here. Okay, and then by then I had 2 teenagers. I homeschooled them. So I was a stay-at-home homeschooling mom. That was what I did.
Got it.
And then once we came here, we realized with the exchange rate between the 2 countries, and we were older in life, right? So we were not able to, we are probably not going to be able to retire yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was freaking out about that because that meant I could see that my kids would make a life here and I would have to go back to Africa 10,000 miles apart from my children. And I talked to my husband and I said, I'm doing something about this. So I started my first online business. And I start where many of us do, with what and it's what's familiar. So I created online courses for homeschoolers in South Africa.
Oh, that's awesome!
but from the US. But it was I started making money right from the start, but it was so much work. Mostly because I had to learn so much, the technical side of it. How do you upload the course? How do you create it that people will complete it? And then all the marketing stuff coming in as well. So very soon I was working 60 hours a week and not making a lot of money. And then one day I listened to a podcast. That's why I love podcasts so much. I listened to an interview with a life coach, and she was making millions of dollars and working only 3 days a week. And I went like, I'm not doing this right. There's a better way to do this. And then I started following her and realized how important the mindset part is, the managing of your emotions, the managing of your mind, following her. But then I was hooked on life coaching and I got certified through her life coach school, but still kept the other business running. It paid for the very expensive coach certification. But then I was really lost. And last year I sold that first business. But I went from working 60 hours in it to working only 6 hours a week, but making double my income, only because I learned how to manage my mind. And now here I am. Okay, I got certified 3 years ago as a life coach, and starting to do all the things. Now it's a completely different ball game. And that what was amazing last year, and it was such a privilege. I coached for Russel Brunson in his program, of ClickFunnels.
Yeah.
He had a mastermind. So I was one of his called momentum coaches under contract. I wasn't on his payroll. He hired a bunch of us. And I locked in 500 sessions in there. And then you let, if you coach people out of overwhelm and confusion and self-doubt again and again. So honing my skills, it was an amazing opportunity. And it was then when I realized, I'm a geek about business. I want to help people build their businesses. And the more people we can get who are financially free in this world, let's go for it. That's what I believe. So here I am.
Oh, that's amazing. What a cool story. So tell me though, like when you step into this certification and you start going through the classes and you got your own business going, what was it specifically about like the emotional side of things and the mindset that attracted you? Because some coaches are like, hey, I'm going to help you with your business. I'm going to help you with the techniques or the strategy. And it sounds like you kind of honed in on the emotional side of things and the mindset. Why do you think that's so powerful?
Okay. So I want to add another personal story to that. I had a horrible relationship with my mom. She was addicted to painkillers. Life was very hard for her. And I could see how that, and it was codependency, right? I couldn't say no to her. I felt guilty. And then I felt resentment because I couldn't say no. And I could see how that relationship impacted my business. Because we have this saying as a life coach, how you show up in one way is how you show up everywhere. So I was people pleasing my clients as well. Even, with my online business, that selling I tried to be everything for everyone, exactly like I was with my mum. And I don't know if you've ever had like reach a line in the sand and you tell yourself, this is enough. I'm not continuing in this way. And I reached that point and I told myself, I'm fixing this. And I was able to completely transform the relationship with my mum. Completely. She passed away in 2021. I saw her 3 weeks before her death. It just like, I think it was providence. I'm a believer. So I believe in God. So I believe in things happening. And I was able to spend time with her, and the relationship, all I felt for her was love and compassion and acceptance. But I had very good boundaries in place with her. And I think that was the power. And then I realized, if I can manage emotions, if it impacts everything. So I think that was the power of it, feeling that transformation in my own life. I want to, this is like the secret to the world. I want to share it with everyone.
That's amazing. And so you developed the skill not only through personal experience where you realize how much of an impact this could have on your life, but now, and then when you went to coach for Russell, were you helping with like the technical side of ClickFunnels, or it was all like mindset stuff?
No, it's mindset stuff. They brought in these momentum coaches to help people. So they had the big program where everybody was helping with the strategy and the tactics, but we were like the confusion, the self-doubt and the overwhelm. There were a team of 20 of us last year that helped him with that.
That's amazing. And so tell us, what is it specifically like? What are some of the things that you have run into? I mean, at 500 hours or 500 coaching sessions, you've probably learned a thing or two. And so tell me some of the common things that you run across and that we can help some of our listeners with, perhaps.
Okay. It's always your mind. It's always the being in a box, and then you need someone on the outside to tell you there is no box. If you can see that it's always, if you can believe in yourself and believe that you are capable of doing the things that you want to, you probably are going to. But I think my big thing is understanding where emotions come from, and that you create them with your own mind, and you can change them at will. it doesn't feel true. It feels counterintuitive because we are like fish in water. We swim in our own thought processes. So it doesn't feel, no, how can I change that? What are you talking about? But once you think about it, it's like you are in the world, something happens. And mostly for humans, sound waves and light waves, they reach you. But they are meaningless. You have to attach meaning to it. You have to interpret it. You have to tell yourself a story about things that you are hearing and things that you are seeing. The other senses come into play too, but those are the big ones for us, right? But only after you've told yourself a story do you create a feeling for that. And if you tell yourself a different story, you will feel differently. And that is very powerful. So it's always, people would come in, I don't know what to do next. I have so much on my to-do list. And I would often start there. It's like, okay, list it out. Just sit down and list it out. You don't have to put it in order. Just like get it out of your mind. Get it on paper or on your computer. Mm-hmm. Now decide how long it's going to take you to complete all of those things. And then the minute you do that, you can see people slow down, calm down. It's that amygdala, those little 2 almond-shaped things that you have in your brain. It's fear, flight, and freeze. It's like, this is too much. Calming that thing down so that you can get access to your prefrontal cortex again. You can get part of that goal that I'm always talking about, that you have in your own mind. You have the ability to come up with solutions, to see what your next steps are. And actually, it's best if you don't have a coach or someone on the outside tell you what you should do next, because you know your business, you know your life best. So it's just like really thinking through the options, but in a calm state, when you've calmed yourself down, and then come up with the ideas.
So you mentioned before, like confusion, self-doubt, and being overwhelmed. And is that one of the tips that you have for people that are maybe, I'm not sure for self-doubt, but certainly for confusion or being overwhelmed, listing them out, like putting it all out on paper, and then objectively looking at it and trying to remove the emotional attachments to all these things swirling around your mind? Is that something you recommend?
I think that is always sit down, write it down.
Okay.
And then, once you've written it down, now you can order it and decide on, in which order should I do it, and which ones should not be on my list this week. Mm-hmm. It's the minute you get it out of your own mind, it's not this vague kind of thing that's threatening you anymore. So definitely I would, but it's managing your mind. It's using your mind as an asset, as a powerful asset to get you to your dreams.
So I love what you're talking about here, because one of the things that I do in my coaching is very similar to what you're saying here. And you talked about, there is no box, and you talked about how, you can manage the emotion, the amygdala and prefrontal cortex and things like that. And I want to ask you this question because you talked about emotions, and I think listeners might be thinking, well, she's telling me to manage my emotions. Okay. Are you telling me that I can not get angry? Like, if my boilerplate is going from 0 to 100 like this, what are you telling me? Like, how can I, not get angry?
Okay, so that's an important thing. Is I never tell people not to have those negative emotions, because they contain a very powerful truth about your life. So if you are getting angry, it would be okay to ask yourself, okay, why is this so triggering to me? What's happening here? So you almost use the emotions as a detective would, as clues to what's going on in your psyche. But no, we are not suppressing emotions, and we are not, positive Polly either. It's like you have to be positive all the time. You want to feel bad sometimes. You want to grieve a school shooting, for instance. You want to be sad about that. Of course you do. We can't just, okay, that's like, no. So I'm not telling people that they never get angry, but if they, and I think it's so funny that Paul is talking about that in the Bible. Get angry, but do not sin. So you feel the emotion, but you don't act on it. And that's the super skill, is to we call it allow the emotion in your body. So you sit there and you feel the anger, you connect with it. Where do I feel it? And just name it, describe it. What is the sensation of anger in my body? But that's not a good time to write that email.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so, walk us through this process. So you feel anger, you sit with it, and I guess one of the questions you're asking yourself is something along the lines of like, what can I learn from here? What's going on? Like, why am I being triggered? And as you do that, do you feel like that anger kind of will dissipate, or you start to understand it better and you start to kind of like move out of that state? Or is that what happens?
I wouldn't even ask myself, what can I learn from that at that point? The first stage is definitely go to it at some point, but the first stage is just to dial it down so that you don't feel it as intensely. And that is just like to not fight it. And I have this audio recording that I really love that I walk people through. If your listeners are interested, they can email me. We just sit with the emotion. You give it a name. You like even think about associations. Does it remind you of a Disney character, for instance, or a color, or does it have a texture? Where do you feel it? It's you're moving towards the emotion instead of trying to suppress it. You're getting to know it. You make friends with your feelings. That's what you do. And it's the strangest thing. Once you do that, it will just like move through your body. Did you know that the average human emotion, it lasts about 90 seconds? Unless you keep feeding it with new story, with new interpretation. If you just
resistance.
Yeah,
right?
if you resist it. If you just allow it to pass through your body and say, oh, this is what I'm feeling, and no judgment. I am angry right now. And, for me, it's like anger. I would get red in my face and definitely my shoulders. And, it's like making myself bigger. It connecting to the feeling first. And then once you are calm, once you have access to your prefrontal again, now you start the questions. But what was I thinking? Why am I so angry? And now, like you said, Jason, what can I learn from this?
Yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit? I love what you're saying there, because one of the things that you brought up is like what happens a lot. We try to resist those emotions, right? And what you resist kind of keeps persisting, keeps growing, right? I think before we started the podcast, you mentioned about this dragon kind of a thing.
Yes.
So you keep feeding that dragon, right? Can you elaborate a little bit more about, because I think it's an important piece about the story that we have, about that we created and that we keep creating and things like that. How does this play into this picture?
Okay. Seeing that I'm from South Africa, I always use the snake example. Okay, so imagine you walk out of your porch and there's a deadly and a dangerous snake. But there's also a friendly neighbor across the street waving at you. You should pay more attention to the snake if you want to live another day, right?
Yeah.
So that has to do with the brain's natural negativity bias. We pay more attention to negative things. And we know that because of the value, the weight that we give to compliments in comparison to criticism. Criticism, it stings a lot more than a compliment makes you feel good. So, okay, so if I walk out on my porch and I see the snake and I tell myself, danger, immediately I will go into flight, fight, or the freeze response that's available to me. But if I take a closer look and I see it's a rubber snake. Can you see how I changed it? A minute ago, I thought it was a real snake. And then when I looked again and it wasn't moving, it's just the decoy. I change it immediately. And that's true of any thought. And the big problem with something like anxiety is that we are afraid of an imagined threat, an imagined danger. It's not a real one. But, we have the flight fear response to things that's a real threat, but no. So, okay, that's one example. It's the snake example and seeing the neighbor across the street. What's another one? Okay. For instance, the last day that I saw my mom, okay, let me give you that story. She didn't want me to go back home, but I was really getting a little bit fuzzy around the edges at that point. My mother-in-law died, so we were sorting out her stuff. Lots of work, but I spent lots of time with my mom too. But that last day, she was like, all the old anxiety came up. And I could have told myself, why can't she let me go? Ask myself that. She's always doing this. She's making my life hard. I'm under stress. At that point, we were wondering about, if we tested positive for COVID, we won't be able to travel. So make plans to stay 2 weeks longer. You don't know so I was very stressed. But if I told myself at that point, if she was so demanding, she's just trying to make my life hard, that will bring up,
that's the story, right?
That's the story. Yeah. But if I tell myself, oh, it's understandable that she doesn't want me to go, immediately I drop into compassion. And that's a better kind of emotion. It's a more empowering one that's going to help me show up differently. Do you have a better example for me, Peter?
No, I think those are perfect examples. I love that you shared that. But so my question to is, I think some listeners, because I've had those kinds of conversations too, but that first one is true. The other one is kind of making it up.
Yeah. But
what do you have to say about that?
It's always making it up. I want to go radical here. And there's this one saying, tell yourself better lies. It's always an interpretation. For instance, the snake example, if I am someone who works with snakes, who loves them, it's like, oh, this is wonderful. Another one for my collection. So the snake itself, the circumstance, the light waves, they are not the important ones. It's the meaning you attach to it. So, okay, let me give you, I coached someone last night and she was really procrastinating on setting together an event. And I don't want to, what people always do. And actually, it's because she's afraid. And now she doesn't have a lot of time. And the idea that she came up with is, I don't have time to create new content. She wants to make a video every day, but I'm dry. I have no more ideas left to give. That's what she told herself. And it felt so true to her. And now as her coach, how do I not get her to resist that, but ask questions so that she can see that is a story? So I said, okay, tell me why it's not true. No, it's true. Okay, that's okay. That approach is not going to work. Of course, I'm dried up. I don't have time.
What are you trying to do here?
Yes, what are you doing? Yes, and Peter, I think you can, and even you, Jason, when you do that, okay, no, that's not a good approach. Yeah. And then I said, okay, give me a metaphor. Give me like a picture, or let me tell you in this way. You are a fountain. You are not a glass of water. There's always more coming up. I want you to give me a metaphor of your own that will give me the same picture of your knowledge base and what you know, and that you don't have to reinvent the wheel in 3 weeks. You have tons and tons of ideas. You just don't have access to it because you tell yourself you're dry. And then she came up with this beautiful picture of, she has a map, like a knowledge map. And there are mountains in there and rivers. But she's shown people not everything on the map. She's shown them the mountain, but not from every angle. She can show it, like an air view and the one and it's the same ideas. You just have to share it in a new way. But you already have it. But when you tell yourself, I have no new ideas, it's just a story.
That's really powerful. Hey, we'll get right back into our interview. But before I do, I want to tell you about something that's incredibly awesome and amazing. And that is what I consider to be our freedom formula in Life and Air. Now, if you're at Life and Air, you've been following us for any period of time, you know we're all about helping you create a life and business you love. You need to have both, right? You can't just have a great life and your business isn't making you any money, because that's gonna stink. And you can't have a business that completely takes up all of your free time and you're stressed out and running around with your hair on fire, because then you're not gonna have the life you want, right? And so you need to have both of these. And that's why we have 2 events. We do these all over the country. We do a handful per year. Peter and I teach these personally. And this is the Get a Life Getaway and the Business Builder Workshop. So if you don't have the life you want, you need to put together your vision and your plan for what your blueprint for the ideal life you want to live in every single area, and reverse engineer the exact steps to make that a reality. Get to the Get a Life Getaway. If business is your challenge right now and you need to go there first, totally cool. We totally get that. And so come do our Business Builder Workshop, because we teach you how to run a real business, not one that requires you to do everything in it and wear all the hats and have you running around with your hair on fire constantly. Like, that's not a business, that's a job. And it's a bad job because you got a bad boss and you're the bad boss. And so let's get you out of that role. Let's help you create a business you love that works without you. So you have time for the vacations, you have time for life's curveballs, you have time to do all the things you want to do, and the finances to support that and finance it. So go to lifeinner.com right now. We also have a very special offer on both of these events, and I can't tell you how long it's going to last because I don't know. Peter, tell them about the special promo we've set up.
So here is the special promo we got for you. Because you're a loyal listener to us, you listen to the podcast, and you endure the listening to both of us here every single week, we have a special 50% off coupon. That's 50, half of it off. So when you go to lifepreneur.com, click on the tab up at the top of the page called Events. Pick the event that you want to go to. At the checkout page, there is an area called the promo code. Type in the word podcast, PODCAST. That's my English language. I think I got this right. Podcast, right?
Yeah.
Hit apply, and you're going to instantly get 50% off your ticket price. Come to the event, introduce yourself to us. We're going to be there. Tell us you found us on the podcast. You got it from here. We love meeting the listeners from the podcast. And let's help you create the life that you want and your business that you love.
Let's do it. We'll see you guys at an event soon. Put this on the calendar. This will change your life. This will change your business. Let's get back to our podcast episode right now. And I think that's an example of how that story that we create, and I'm guessing, we probably all gravitate towards a type of story naturally, like maybe because of previous conditioning or experiences. And I'd also say, and I'm curious, do you think that as someone starts to learn this skill, that you start to kind of even question your story and not react quite as much, like right off the bat? Or do you feel like you kind of people still always will react, and you just kind of are better and quicker at creating a more empowering story?
I think you will always react. It's like that was one of the things, especially with my mother, that relationship. But I know I shouldn't feel this way. Why do I still feel the resentment? Why do I still feel the guilt? And then it's, okay, I just have the tools now to get myself out of there faster. And I think that's true of any business owner too. You will always, when you level up, get to the next level, here's the overwhelm again. Here's the self-doubt again. You forget everything that you've learned in the past, but now you just like the skill is to get yourself out of there faster and faster. And it plays into that natural negativity bias that we have. If you don't fight that, if you just see that, it's just my brain trying to protect me. And how do I get into this one word that I think that I'm in a mastermind and they use it, get yourself out of a low value cycle into a high value cycle again, where you have empowering emotions that will make you more creative, that will make you see more of the possibilities.
So do you have any tips for people, like, let's say that we have people struggling with all kinds of things that are listening or watching right now. When it comes to creating a new story, what are some of the things that you'll help people do so that they can do this for themselves? Or like, and because, clearly as a coach, you can't be there all the time for them, for every little emotion, every instance. What are some of the ways that people can develop a better skill in this area of developing better stories?
Okay, the first insight, as a principle would be to see the link, the thinking, feeling, acting cycle. And to realize, okay, I'm feeling this way because of something that I'm thinking. But sometimes, we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and not all of them will create all of these intense feelings. So you have to capture the ones that really make the difference. And what I've seen is that your feeling, if they are very intense feelings, that's a good clue. what am I thinking? What's the story I'm telling myself here? That's a good one. And also the way that you're acting. For instance, weight loss people. If you want to lose weight and you find yourself reaching for that ice cream after you visit your mother-in-law and just completing the tub, it's like finishing the tub. Why is that? So use your actions. Why am I procrastinating? Why don't I do this? But it really helps to have a coach, because we are like jars. We can't read our own labels. That outside perspective is so valuable.
And so, okay, so the first step is kind of what I'm hearing is like, look at your actions and your feelings, and then try to almost take a step back and reflect on, okay, what am I telling myself? What is it? Yeah. What am I believe about the situation to be true? Once they do that, if someone like Peter mentioned earlier, they are so certain that this is the right interpretation. That person tried to do that to me. They're doing that. They're trying to hurt me. They're trying to go, whatever. Is it a questioning process where that person asks themselves like, well, are they really trying to do that? Or what are some other possibilities that could be, happening here? Like, what are some of the ways that someone can actually start to shift that story? Are there, do you ask yourself questions? I'm curious about that side of the equation.
Sometimes it has to do with getting out of the black and white thinking. This person is always trying to do something mean to me. They are sometimes trying to do something mean to me.
Got it.
So you create a little bit of space around the thought. Right. And now it becomes a little bit more manageable. So what you are doing, but this is hard for us to do, but it's so powerful, is to become an observer of yourself. To see yourself thinking, to see yourself feeling. And it's okay. I'm telling myself that person did that on purpose. But if I just add a little word, maybe they didn't know what they were doing. I'm absolutely sure you don't have to go from 0 to 100. It's like you can do it like incrementally. A little bit of a shift. And then you see, oh, wait a minute. And then you feel the shift happening. Oh, I can look at it differently.
Got it. Mm-hmm. So what if somebody's struggling with self-doubt? Like, like I can't do this. This is so hard. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the experience. I'm too young. I'm too old, and blah, blah, blah. Like, what are some of the ways that people can start to shift their beliefs around that?
Are you speaking from personal experience, Wojo?
On all of those.
All of us. All of us. I mean, that's me too. So there are some like universal limiting beliefs that people have, and self-doubt is one of them. I'm not good enough. So a good kind of thing to do here is the technique that's called memory reconciliation. And many psychologists use it with people that have been very traumatized. But as business owners, we can really use the same thing. So, for instance, if you were to tell me, I don't think that I'm good enough, do you want to try this and just like, I'm not good enough?
Yeah.
Are you willing to be
sure? Let's do it
on the spot.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. So, is that what you are telling yourself? I'm not good enough.
I could see myself saying that in certain areas for sure.
Okay. So when was the first time when you believed that?
Ooh. Gosh, probably when I think whenever I'd have to really give some thought to that. Are you talking in a business context or ever in my life?
Whichever one you want to pick, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, so for instance, when I remember that when the founder of Life and Air asked me to partner with him and run the company. And at that point in my life, I'd run crews, I'd run teams, I'd run contractors, but I'm like, Steve, I've never run a business in my life. I'm like, I'm not qualified for this.
Okay. But why would you tell yourself that? What happened before in your life? Can you think of an incident when you inadequate? When was the feeling when you, and really a story when you felt inadequate?
I'm searching for that answer. I know I must have had that somewhere. It's well, because I'm going back and I find another one, but then I'm wondering, well, there had to be one prior to that, right? Like, so like, for instance,
it doesn't really matter as long as we can get one that's very specific. When something happened and you told yourself, I'm inadequate, I'm not good enough.
I think the earliest one I can remember was when I played hockey as a kid, and I was younger than everyone, and I was smaller than everyone. I was the smallest one on the team and the youngest one on the team. And I remember thinking, like, I shouldn't be out here. I'm gonna get killed. This is embarrassing. I'm gonna humiliate myself. Like, I don't want to play. Coach, don't put me in.
Okay, so don't put me in. So can you remember that you actually went in and things didn't go so well?
Oh yeah, like it did not go well. Like like I kind of just skated around and got knocked over a few times. I mean,
okay,
luckily,
can you tell that incident when you got knocked over and it was really a humiliation and you were scared?
I knew, like, I'm like, I knew this was going to happen.
Okay, and what was happening? Just like, bring it up. Tell me, put us there in the picture. Get us on that.
Yeah, I was out there on the ice and I'm skating after the puck and some guy just plows me right over and I go sliding on my face, like, across the ice, and I remember, my grandfather was there, my dad was there, and I can hear them yelling for me to get up. And I remember that. That was my 1 year of hockey. Like, that was it. I did not want to play again.
Okay. So as you are talking, what was the feeling that you experienced then?
Oh, it's just embarrassing, humiliating. Like,
okay.
Like, I just want to hide.
Right. And do you feel it right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So the interesting thing about memories is once you've brought up a memory like this, it stays active for 5 hours.
Oh, thanks for resetting it. Now my whole afternoon. I'm gonna feel
no. We're going to change it. We're going to change it right now.
Okay.
So so you can work with it, because we think that memories are permanent, but they're more like a Word document. Every time you open the document and change it and save it again, it's an updated version. So we can now change the association, the feeling that you had with that moment. We can change it right now.
Let's do it.
Okay. So what happened afterwards? You ended the story where you were on the ice. End the story for me at a different place. That specific day.
So, well, I remember after I got off the ice, I got my dad and my grandfather kind of gave me the pat on the back, like trying to reassure me, but at the same time, it just felt like you got killed out there, like, and we're embarrassed for you. Like, that's what it felt like. Okay.
And as your adult self, like the best parent you can be, what would you tell that little boy who didn't feel that, the encouragement he was getting was real, if you were to talk to him?
That, that this was a way for them probably to show that, they empathized with it and they felt bad and they wanted me to know that, it's okay and we still love you and don't worry about it, kind of thing.
So you were much loved.
Yeah.
So does that change if you go back to you being on the ice now that you are, oh, well, people love me? Go back to yourself and tell that little boy, you are on the ice here, but you are loved. People care about you.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter quite as much. Like, so what if I'm embarrassed, maybe, or I mean, it's not like it's just a game. Like, maybe it feels a little less severe. Like, it doesn't matter.
Okay. And how did that help you in the rest of your life? That being able to fail, getting up. What did you learn from that? What did you learn about life? What did you learn about yourself?
Probably just to keep getting up. Doesn't really matter as long as eventually you're going to get it. Like, and that is something that I somewhere, and I don't know if it was that particular instance with the hockey, but in my life, that has been something where I just keep going until I get it.
Okay, so tell me why that specific day, on that incident, on that ice, was vital for your development as a person and for the leader that you are today?
My guess is that, I learned, I don't know, maybe I just learned maybe I learned, I don't know. I'm trying to reflect on this. I wonder if there's part of it that is, if you fall, you just keep going. Like it doesn't matter. And I did feel loved as a kid for sure. I didn't have any traumatic childhood or like that. And maybe my worth isn't established by what level of success I have, but internally I still think I enjoy the feeling of not giving up. And maybe there's still part of me that feels like I have to still prove this to myself. I'm not sure. I'd like to think that it's just from a position of like, I like that sensation of feeling successful. But like we Peter and I just went surfing like a couple weeks ago, and we were both brand new to it. And I just kept getting crushed by the waves, but I just kept going, and we just kept going until we got to the point where we felt like, hey, yeah, I feel good about what I've done today. So I don't know. Does that answer your question? I know, like, I don't.
Was there a shift? Are you going to think back today on that incident, and have we replaced the embarrassment with pride?
Well, maybe what I'm thinking is like, maybe, man, I'm kind of grateful for that. Like maybe if I hadn't got knocked over and slid across the ice, and recognize that I'm still loved, then I would still be hung up on that. I'd be afraid to try again. Like that's one thing in my life that I've never, and I'm not sure, I shouldn't say never, but I'm wondering if it's that exact instance or a string of them, right? That's allowed me to just realize, like, you know what, I'm going to keep going. I don't care if I'm bad at this. I'm going to keep going, and it's not the end of the world.
Okay. Was that exactly that mindset that you had when you took over Life and Air?
I felt like, yeah, I mean, I certainly felt like I didn't know it, but I was willing to learn it, and I would figure it out. And I just basically, I was just telling Steve, like, I hope I don't destroy the company, just so you know. And he just laughed, and here we are, like, years later, and it's it continues to improve.
Yeah, it's the same little boy on the ice who got up, felt bad, knew he had it in him, and it's the same guy who went surfing.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. I can see that.
So you can. Now, this was a mild one, but you can really have very, very bad memories that's telling you, I'm not good enough. I don't have it in me. Or people are out to get me. No one cares for me. Whatever, there are few universal ones that many people tell themselves. But you can go back into your past and re-look in it. And there are different techniques. I tried a few today. It's like, ended at a different place. What would you tell yourself as an adult? And, it's just like looking back over your life. What did you learn from that? And then we is it unattached? What's the word? Detach.
Yeah, detach.
You detach the emotion to that from that original one. But now you tell yourself, okay, but I have tons of these. I have so many of these incidents. But this is what's so wonderful about neuroplasticity. If you rewrite, if you look at a few of these big ones, like 6 or 7 of them, your brain catches up, and it's like, oh, we don't think we are not good enough anymore, do we? You get a new map for your world. It's like your brain, it catches up, and you don't have to look at every little incident. As long as you look at enough of them, it's like your brain learns to, oh, there's a new neural pathway. We are not going down this way, the electricity this way, we are going this way now. Does that help?
Yeah, tremendously. Like, yeah, that's awesome. That was really powerful.
That was very good. Yeah. Well, listen, I want to make sure that, I love what you just shared on this particular podcast episode, and how you shown us that, how the emotions are connected, and hopefully you fixed Wojo on this podcast. we've all been trying as an entire community of life and they're trying to fix him for years. But I think maybe this is finally
it, Risa.
So if someone wants to find out more about you, how would they go and reach you?
I'm hanging out on LinkedIn a lot these days, so that would be a very nice first contact point. But they can have a look at my website as well. It's Risa for coaching, and it's the number 4.com.
Okay, Risa for coaching.com.
That R was almost perfect.
There we go.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the Life Hacker Show, Risa.
Thank you for having me.
Dude, that was powerful, man. Like man, and I gotta apologize to Risa because I am not a quick responder when it comes to like coming up with this stuff, and I haven't done a lot of deep reflective work in a while. But I found that to be really beneficial.
How so?
Well, I mean, I think it really reframed like not only that instance, but I think if I go back to other things that have occurred throughout my life, like I'll see a pattern of and when I feel like kind of grateful for it now, like. Every time that I've fallen flat on my face in anything, it only becomes like, and I'd have to think of instances where I didn't, continue to try. But I'm kind of grateful for it because I think it's paved the path for me that like, I don't care if I screw up, some of the things. And I think that I've shared this with you before, man. Like I've done some things to get out of that comfort zone that have really, really kind of force you to be humble and to just realize that like almost nothing is that important. Like you can just get back up and try again. And if you look silly or you look stupid or you screw up, like it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
Right. And, I love the fact that we talked about in this particular episode about the story, and we talked about the meaning that we give it and all the kind of things, because that's one of the conversations that I have a lot with my students, because the story is what creates our lives. The story we keep ourselves.
Yeah.
And, I love Tony Robbins. I mean, you guys know that he's like my mentor, just doesn't know it, but he talks about this a lot. He goes, change your story, change your life, divorce your story, marry the new story, right?
Yeah.
And we can do it throughout the entire life, or we can do it in those specific moments that we just talked about in this particular episode. So, she mentioned about being first aware of what that story is, aware of the emotion, aware of what's going on, because I think that's a very important step, because majority of the time we are not aware of ourselves, are we?
Yeah. Yeah.
We just go and do things, right? And we just be. But we're not aware how we are actually, what are we doing? What's the conversation that's going on in our minds in between those 2 years? And when we start being aware of ourselves, we start to shift that story, shift that meaning that we give ourselves that is helping us to get to the next level in our lives.
Well, I think also like, I love that, the first step is becoming aware, like you said, look at your actions, look at your emotions, see where things aren't, there's intensity around that doesn't feel good to you. And I love what she said, man. She said, like, tell yourself a better lie, because the story you're already making up is already a lie anyway. So tell yourself a better one that is more empowering to you and allows you to kind of get to what you want to experience. And like, I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. I think one of the important things for the listener here is to allow yourself to think that the story that you have is a lie. Because if you go back to that time, think about it, whatever that experience was, like for you, the hockey thing, right? Or for the listeners who've been at the 3-day Get Life giveaways that we put out together, and I share my think about the frying pan incident, right? There is a story. So if you look at those moments, who created that? Who interpreted that situation, that circumstance, right?
Yeah, you
did. So, and that was most of the time I was a little kid, right? And how much does the little kid know about the entire life?
Yeah.
And when you start looking from that perspective, it's like, was it really true? Was it something that I made up? And if you start to understand that, and you start to believe that, something I made up in that moment, now this thing doesn't become so true. Now it starts to see that I can actually create a new thing, new story, new meaning that I can address to it. And now when you start doing that, the emotion starts to shift. You start attaching different emotions. And then next time you go out there, think about it. When we were surfing a couple of weeks ago, right? You fell down. I mean, I saw you, I
You saw the board pop up in the air.
I said the board pop on just go fly up in the air. And here's the thing. Did you get off go on the beach?
No, got back
you
out.
Picked them up and you started going again. Yep. Whereas if it was that, little kid back in the day, you probably would go off and sit on the beach.
You're right. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So there is some shift that happens. And when you start looking from those perspectives, man, it's amazing what can happen for people. Yeah. And especially some of the listeners who are thinking like, listen, I'm a very logical person. Why are you talking to me? I'm not emotional. I'm very logical. Well, guess you, my friend, have the story about that too. So consider that, and you start, poking in there and figuring things out, and you'll be amazed what you can come up with.
Yeah, man. Awesome episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. If you did like it, please give us a thumbs up, give us a like, give us a review, give us a rating, share it with someone you love and care about, and we will see you next week. Take care, everyone.